Hi, I'm Jack Baruzzini, and you're listening to The Secret to Stargate, where we talk about the hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies, TV series, and more. And joining me today are Jeff Haecker. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, Jack.
And Lisa Jones. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Jack.
And Victor Lambs. Hey, Victor.
Hi, Jack.
Today we are discussing the season finale of Season 1 of Atlantis, The Siege Parts 1 and 2. As 3 Wraith hive ships bear down on Atlantis, the team scrambles to activate an ancient defense satellite while simultaneously searching for a suitable evacuation site. Tensions rise when Sergeant Bates is mysteriously attacked, leading to the discovery of a Wraith infiltrator lurking within the city. McKay and Zelenka race against time to repair the satellite weapon, culminating in a risky spacewalk and a devastating sacrifice. With the satellite only partially successful and the self-destruct countdown initiated, we conclude with the realization that the Wraith will stop at nothing to attack Earth, just as the reinforcements from the SGC arrive through the Stargate. As Atlantis initiates a self-destruct, Earth establishes contact and sends reinforcements led by Colonel Everett, who brings advanced weaponry and a new Naquita generator to bolster the city's defenses. Despite these reinforcements, the Wraith launch the attack, destroying the strategically placed mines and infiltrating the city during a dart assault. As the battle intensifies, Weir negotiates with the Genii for a powerful nuclear weapon, while Shepard prepares for a daring suicide mission to destroy the hive ship. With the city's power dwindling and the Wraith forces closing in, the fate of Atlantis hangs in the balance. It's always a good way to end a season on a cliffhanger.
Dun, dun, dun.
And I do, before we get into this, I am getting over a cold, so if my voice sounds awful, that is why. What are your thoughts on this episode, Jeff?
Yeah, this is a great one. I think it's classic episodes or classic stories from Stargate Atlantis, and being it so early, like I don't know if it's peak Atlantis, but it's definitely in the top 5 stories. And great action, great character building. The arrival of the reinforcements from the SGC is great. Colonel, I think, is it Everson or Everett, whatever his name is. He's kind of a jerk, but you learn, he kind of gains your respect a little bit because he kind of recognizes what Weir and everybody has done. And then, as we'll see, we're not talking about part 3 yet, but he does have, even though he has a frosty relationship with Shepard, that does kind of reconcile as well. Yeah, it's a great episode, and I can't wait to watch the next one.
Yeah, while we were watching them, I had to go ahead and watch part 3 because I couldn't just leave it on that.
Yeah, if I hadn't already known what happens in the next one, I might have had to keep going. But since I've seen it a number of times.
What are your thoughts on this episode, Lisa?
I'm with Jeff. I think this was a really good way to end. I mean, I forget this is our first season finale for Atlantis, so it was a really good way to end it. You had 2 episodes that we're talking about, and they didn't air together. They aired a week apart, but we watched them all together. And I think that for me, I like the Siege Part 1 better. I thought it was more eminent, moving the story forward. And Siege Part 2, I felt like Everett, it's like the guy you love to hate, right? Like, you're like, after he yells at a Shepard, about how he wouldn't have, like, what's his face was his best friend and you shot him, and as he's getting fed on by the Wraith, you're like, maybe you need to go find a Wraith. Like, I don't know. So I liked it. I think it was a good way to end. I can see, Jack, why you watched the premiere of season 2, because it was very tempting, because it felt very, oh no, when it ends, which is what you want from back in the day when you had to wait 3 months or however long to for the next episode to start.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Victor?
Yeah, I would say that this is probably peak Stargate Atlantis and maybe even peak Stargate 2. Just because there's so much going on. This is so much fun, and I love watching it over and over again. I watched it, each episode twice in preparation for this podcast so I could get the commentary, and it doesn't feel like a chore when there's just so much going on. I mean, this is where the effects budget for the second half of the season went. This is where their set budget went. When you consider the the weapon satellite interior, just how cool that looks. We get some pretty credible looking spacewalks in the EVA suit, which look really good. And then, that's just the first part. And then in the second part, all heck breaks loose. And You have all the pew pew pew. It's like the Death Star trench run from the perspective of the Death Star, kind of
Yeah.
in reverse. And you get the rail guns, you get the chair drones, you get the 50 caliber machine guns, which those aren't nowadays. Whenever they show like a machine gun or something, they digitally put the muzzle flash on, and people are just like recoiling on their own. This was they were actually using like blanks, 50 caliber, bullets that cost like $6 a piece, and they had to have the camera crew set up behind plexiglass because it was so loud and there was just so much flying around. And yeah, so they had a lot of fun making it. I had a lot of fun watching it. I like Colonel Everett. He's just like the stereotypical 1950s, general chomping on it. He didn't have a cigar, but he could have been chomping on a cigar. Very quickly establishes the chain of command. There's just so much, like the cavalry arrives, through the Stargate, and it's just so perfect. And I like when we were talking in the gift about all the stuff they happen to have in Atlantis, like where they all bring it in from. They were very conscious in this about, we have to bring in enough crates to explain all the, the 4 rail guns, the nukes, all the ammunition and everything that these soldiers are bringing through. So you do see it all in the gate room, on their little carts and dollies and stuff. So I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. But no, I just love this so much. And, we work in the Janai too. We get their kind of weird, Victorian, era nukes as well. So yeah, it just, there's so much going on, and I just love it all.
Yeah, it felt like basically watching like a big movie.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. I did feel like Everett coming in and immediately being antagonistic. Like, I understand why they did it, but it did feel a bit odd because especially switching back and forth from SG-1 to Atlantis, it's like, we like SG-1 when we watch SG-1, but now they're kind of coming in and being antagonistic on Atlantis. So that was interesting to see.
Well, these forces would be from the IOA, because Atlantis was under the purview of the IOA, not Stargate Command. So maybe they're like, because I think Everett's a Marine and not Air Force. So they might have just like got who needs to get the job done, and where those that they, and I don't think they like Shepard a whole lot. Like the IOA probably doesn't like Shepard a whole lot because he's kind of a loose cannon. So they probably were like, we need to get somebody forceful to keep him in line, since Sumner has passed away and he's the commander of the military there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they all get to wear their raspberry berets as they come through the gate. But no, and I like it because, I mean, one thing Weir isn't is like a tactical military commander, and Shepard really isn't either. So to defend an entire city, you don't know. I mean, Everett doesn't know how far away the Wraith ships are, right? So he has to come in, and attack could be, at any time, and very quickly get defenses in place. Yeah, so I appreciated that, and I like how he entertained Shepard to a point, explained himself, and then said, this will be the last time I give you an order twice. And Shepard's like, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as someone who's been watching Atlantis this season, you're like, what are you doing? You didn't even ask. Like, you come in and you didn't say, like, he's like, we got your message and we're here. We're like, okay, but that was recorded 2 weeks ago at this point in their world. And you're like, okay, you don't ask, like, any updates, what's going on? And like, we don't need you anymore. So you find yourself like, you hate him because you're like, you're ruining my team, my people. You're not listening to them. You're not, letting them do it. And so I was not on Team Everett. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he did mention that his order was signed by General O'Neill. So
yeah.
It could have been though, like the president like made O'Neill do it. Like, you're going to send this guy to.
But he could have. I mean, I love that I love that moment when the incoming wormhole and they open it and it's like, okay, these are people from Earth. Like, what is going on? And so it's just it's like an overload, like a shock, right? First of all, there's a connecting wormhole. Two, it's this whole, the cavalry, like you said, coming in, but they don't just come in to save them. They come in to take over. And it's a kind of just a shock to the system because of just where we've been this whole season with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and especially that it follows on the heels of what happens in episode 1, too, which, was very effective. Martin Wood directed both episodes, and it's clear that, he really gets Stargate and can, move the pace along and it just does some real. You don't even notice. He does have a lot of fancy crane shots in this, but you don't even notice it in this one because you're just so engrossed in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really cool. Unfortunately, you do get to say goodbye to one, potentially two of our kind of recurring cast members, because the plan is to take a puddle jumper out to the ancient satellite weapon and see if they can bring it online. And so David Hewitt gets to put on the EVA suit, and he actually, while this was filming, he had like the worst flu. So if you'll notice, like he's just sweating constantly, and his eyes are like so sullen and sunk into his head. And that wasn't acting; that was just because he had like this incredibly bad flu for while they were filming those scenes.
It worked because it looked like he was really like stressed and worried.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to do when he's kind of just bouncing around in the spacesuit, not when he's coming down on the wire, but they have basically the cheap way to do spacewalks is you put all your weight on one foot and your other leg is kind of bent up behind you, resting on this kind of like box that follows behind you. And so he has the flu. He's wearing this like 60-pound suit, and he's bouncing up and down on one leg around the set. So, but it really is effective. It's a good looking, like, I think it's probably the best looking, 0G we've seen in Stargate up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we don't often get like striving for accuracy in like EVA stuff in like science fiction. So I appreciated how that was done, or the fact that he has to like basically make a leap of faith out of the back of the puddle jumper to get to the outside conduits on the satellite.
We skipped over a really poignant moment between Rodney and Zelenka.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we did.
Before they go there, it was just like this like bromance, like, what if you don't make it back and I'm going to miss you? And like, so you just admitted you're smarter than me, and like all this back and forth. I loved it so much.
Yeah, and then McKay says, "Take care of my city,"
Yeah.
which he's entrusting, finally giving Zelenka the trust he does, he deserves to protect it. And we get some really good Zelenka scenes in here where he's showing Weir that even if they activate the self-destruct, the city will break apart and sink, but the parts of it will be recoverable, especially the ancient database, which is what the Wraith really want because it has all the information about Earth in it, how to find Earth, and as well as the advanced technology. So their plan is to set up, I guess this would be Avenger 3.0 or 4.0 at this point, to wipe out the ancient database. But Weir has second thoughts, and they're seeing how much of the database can they actually keep. And it's not much because the ancients apparently know a lot more about file compression than Rodney does.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said like 8, maybe 9% with all the hard drives they have, and these are 2005 hard drives, so
yeah,
it's not like nowadays where you can get 2 terabytes on a micro SD card.
Yeah,
now
they
had some ancient or some alien technology that helped compress files, and that's what they brought. They have the advanced technology.
Surprised there's no like ancient thumb drives lying around on Atlantis they could take advantage of.
Just like the crystals, right? Everything's crystals, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe the Star Trek original series, like, squares or whatever.
Punch cards, basically.
Yeah, the punch cards, yeah.
Yeah, but I like how slow the Wraith approaches. Because one of my big problems with science fiction is writers not understanding how incredibly big space is. You can see this especially like in J.J. Abrams movies, where it's like you just went halfway across the galaxy in 2 seconds, and it's like that's not how it works. So you have like this long build up where they're coming and they're traveling faster than light, but it still takes them a while.
Yeah, because they have to make pit stops and stuff, and stop at the rest areas and feed on humans and
get some glizzies off the roller.
Yeah. And even once they hit the system, it does take them a while to get there because they have to drop out of hyperspace, and it takes them at least 20 hours to get from where they although they do slow down once one of their ships is
it was great. It's a plot device because
yeah,
it gave you this impending doom and over this feeling of dread, anxiety. What are we going to do? But then how many episodes have we had now with them on their way? And it's been fabulous. It just, all of these stories that they probably wouldn't have been able to tell all at one time if it had just happened. I was thinking like the end of, what was it? SG1 season 1, when the Gould were on their way, and it just kind of happened all in one episode. And so we draw it out, and I really enjoy it that they didn't do it too quickly.
It gives you all that time for the build up and the planning, which kind of gets cut when you try to do it all in 45 minutes.
Yeah. Like there wouldn't have been a satellite to go visit.
Yeah.
15 hours on a puddle jumper with McKay and
Grodin and the other guy.
The other guy.
The other guy, yeah.
But you assumed was going to be the red shirt, right?
Yeah.
Well, they drew straws to see who does the spacewalk, and McKay drew the short straw.
After they try rock, paper, scissors, right? Which doesn't work. That was a joke too. You have the 3 brilliant scientists, and they don't realize that rock, paper, scissors won't work with 3 people.
3 people. That's good.
Yeah.
I was gonna say they didn't think to do like an elimination round.
Yeah, exactly.
No. But yeah, they had to really fight to make this a 3-parter because, MGM, they hadn't done a lot of 3-parters and they were reluctant. And I think they knew they were going to be renewed going into this, but from the commentary track, it sounds like, even at this point, there was a chance they could have been, canceled.
Could you imagine if it ended like that?
Yeah, I know. Well, yes, I can, because another Stargate show kind of ends this way.
True.
But, yeah, and so I think making it the extreme peril cliffhanger, is kind of their way of ensuring or helping to ensure a season 2.
Mm-hmm. Or at least a continuation movie, if not.
Yeah.
Yeah. If this came out today, it would have been 2 years till the next season.
Exactly. Yeah.
Luckily, it was only 3 months or whatever it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that as I watched it.
2.
That we used to wait 3 months, and I was like, oh, that seems so long, because we just watch it all at one time. But gosh, with the streaming stuff, there are a couple of shows that just came back, and I'm like, I don't know if I care anymore. It's like it's been 2 years. So I think, do you do that? And now I'm like, 3 months was so short. Awesome.
Yes, I think the next season of Stranger Things isn't coming out till next November, and it's been like 4 years already.
Yeah, it was 22, I think, that it last came out.
At that point, it's like, I've moved on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But somebody who doesn't want to move on is Halling. We get to see Halling. Yeah. Christopher Heyerdahl is back. Apparently he had been filming a movie in Japan, but they wanted to bring him in for this episode. So he basically landed, and then within, a few hours of landing was doing his scenes, and then was back on a plane to Japan. But, we get to see him. He doesn't want the city to be blown up. And I think he's the one who convinces Weir to basically save as much of the data as possible. But it's always good to see him to know that he's still around.
I thought that was a really powerful scene because,
yeah,
he gave us this like opposing view, and it was almost like, I actually equated it to faith, faith that the city would survive, faith that, we would say like God wouldn't allow this to happen and all. And it was just so interesting to put his and his people's, faith in the city and faith in the ancestors and all that had come before up against, Weir's very practical science mind and, like what is actually going to happen. Mm-hmm. But also knowing that the ancients exist. And she doesn't even acknowledge that it's a possibility, and I just found it I loved that moment. It was very short, but that they brought that into it and that it caused you to kind of think about where these people come from, different ways of thinking about it.
I also liked that it kind of, because up until that point, she'd almost gone with the conclusion that they were going to lose the city, and so she wasn't even trying to figure out ways to save it, and so that kind of was able to realign her views somewhat and think like, okay, well, what can we actually do rather than just giving it up before the battles even started.
Right, that it was worth it. It meant something to try to fight for the city.
Yeah, and I want to put in a plug for Martin Garrow's writing here, which is very good. He was, I think, 26, 27 when he wrote these. but just to, come in this season and, do such a good job with the episodes that he was given. But it was very much, they were, they really felt like they needed to kill someone off in order to kind of sell the peril that the city was in. Like if you have all these people and you don't ever lose anyone, and I guess it's, Joss Whedon was very famous for doing this on his shows. Fortunately, we don't, get that bad in Stargate Atlantis, but it was sad to see Peter Groden, but very heroically, give his life to help save the city there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because at first there's a chance that he could be saved once the Wraith pass or once the satellite does its thing, but then it gets off one shot and then the Wraith blow it up because the satellite was damaged. They had to reroute power, and he was stuck on the other side of the airlock that let them in. So he had to stay behind while McKay and the other guy went and hid in the jumper until the Wraith passed.
And fans were really upset about this too. And there was even a fan theory that, like, if you look at the satellite blowing up, there's a chunk of it that goes spinning off. And the fan theory was that Groden was somehow in that riding it out. But no,
you don't see the body. He's alive.
Yeah,
there you go. It is
yeah,
sci-fi.
exactly. Yeah, but Craig Veroni, took it pretty well because as an actor, a recurring actor on a show, when the writer comes to you and says, "Yeah, I'm going to kill you off and you won't be on the show anymore." It's
getting fired, basically.
Yeah.
But you could also take it as you were important, that like they wanted to make sure they didn't just kill off someone new, just, like someone who just walks on the set that day, that they wanted to have that emotional punch of killing off a character that people cared about. So, I mean, that's probably small consolation to losing your job.
But it gives Chuck Campbell as Chuck the technician a chance to get some more lines this time. He has quite a few lines in this. I guess filling in for what Groden would have done.
I love that his
voice in the background.
Name is Chuck the technician. Like on IMDb. I love that.
Yeah, and he got the role because he was David Hewitt's stand-in, and so like whenever they needed to set up the cameras, he would be there and he'd be just reading. David Hewitt's lines, which were a lot of, technobabble and stuff. And they would say, wow, this guy's actually really good at, kind of reciting the technobabble lines. We should, give him a part on the show where he can do that on a regular basis. So, and so I think we'll have Chuck for several years at least.
Yeah. I think he might stay around to the end, or if not the end, close to it. He's around for a while.
It's always funny how those different interactions end up getting you different parts on shows, based on things like that. And
also in part one, as you mentioned, they find Bob the Wraith, who had beamed down during the Brotherhood when the single dart attacked the city and rained surveillance. And so it's again James Lafazanos as the Wraith, just with a slightly different tattoo this time.
Different member of KISS.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's following on from all the suspicion about Taylor and her connection with the Wraith. So we get some more of that. Where was it?
Actually, Slugs Bates. Yeah,
Bates,
Bates is Bates is still suspicious of her, and at one point when they're checking out the different potential evacuation sites, they come running back through, and he immediately assumes that it's that the Wraith have followed them there, and it was just a T-Rex.
Yeah.
And Martin Garrow actually wanted to have the T-Rex follow them through the gate into the gate room, but it would have cost like an extra $60,000 for the effect shot of like the T-Rex in the gate room being shot.
Oh my gosh.
And they realized they couldn't afford it. But so you can kind of just imagine what might have been. You have to kind of imagine the T-Rex coming through
that would have been
gate.
Funny.
Yeah.
I'm just going to imagine Rex from Toy Story.
Yeah. I got these tiny little arms.
Yeah, that confrontation with Bates and Taylor was really great because, I mean, Bates, I hate to say Bates is kind of in the right.
Yeah, I mean,
he's kind of in
his
the right. Even
job
you don't like him, he's kind of in the right there.
Yeah, if you're a good security chief, no one likes you.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then, of course, when he gets attacked, where were you, Taylor? What's going on? And then they're all like, oh, she's like, it wasn't me. And they're like, okay.
Yeah. And that's the last we'll see of Bates for a few seasons.
He's just going to be in a coma.
Yeah. And he gets sent back to Earth, I guess.
That's what I would assume, yeah.
Yeah.
And we get, after they capture Bob, they want to interrogate him.
Yeah, although it's pretty clear Shepard isn't so big on the interrogation part.
No.
And that was something too, is that the writers wanted Stargate Atlantis to be a little darker than SG-1. Which, I mean, it's still Stargate, so it's not like they're not like, torturing Bob or anything, but
they are just shooting him many, many times.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a wraith. He can take a few shots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that is how we end the first part, with our one of our lead characters basically bloodthirstily killing a prisoner.
A prisoner of war. Yeah. Murdering a prisoner of war. Yeah.
Well, the wraith haven't signed the Geneva Convention, so
Yeah. I guess. And, to what extent are they human? I don't know, I don't know. But yeah. We'll veer into Starship Troopers discussion territory here. We're not careful.
It's like we need Daniel Jackson here, because he was, in SG-1, he's always arguing about, are they sentient? Like everything is worth trying to preserve and communicating with and saving and, all this stuff. And like here, it's like, yeah, they're sentient. Yeah, they're creatures. They think they know who they are, blah, blah, blah. Fine. We can just shoot them anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's nobody objecting.
And it
No.
doesn't even, there's no
Help.
repercussions either with it, which
Yeah.
I thought was interesting.
Yeah. No moral voice.
Yeah. But, yep.
Yeah, especially following on that Taylor has the Wraith gene in her. It's like, obviously this is a more complicated issue than just they're evil. Like, you can't just murder people. It's generally considered bad.
Well, wait till you see what they do in a couple seasons to another Wraith. And yeah, becomes one of their main antagonists as a result of what they do to him. But yeah.
Yeah.
They do eventually set up different factions of wraith, and some are more friendly to them than others, and they can make alliances and such. So it'll be interesting to see when that happens, when we get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've done a good job of, at the very beginning of the show, they make, the Wraith just come across as like the big baddies who just want to feed on you and kill you or scoop you up or whatever. But they've really started where they're going to go, which is giving them more complex, thinking, the fact that they can, make all these plans and do all, it's you see it's going to last longer than just Gould just want to, enslave you and
Gould just want to have fun.
Yeah.
I was about to say that.
Sorry. Sorry. But yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, we don't get any sort of complex moral quandary like we do with Hugh in Star Trek.
Not
yet.
Not yet. Yeah. But yeah. Yeah, and so in season 2, we get the big epic firefights. We get to play around with the ancient chair again, because episode 2, yes, not season 2, but episode 2. Yeah, season 2 probably as well, but because the people from Earth have brought a super-powered Nakoda generator, which can basically run hotter than a regular one's overclocked, and that will power the chair, at least for a little while. But we get the beginning of kind of some funny sequences where McKay and Zelenka have to run all over the city, and every time McKay sits down to take a break, he has to get up and run someplace else and do something else, whether it's fix the chair or work on the nukes, which we get to see the Janai homeworld again, but we don't get to see Cowan or Kolya, we get to see Prenum, or he's a new guy, a new Janai who's talking to them, and apparently there's a really cool scene where Weir has to go through and is blindfolded and is basically negotiating with them while she's tied to a chair and blindfolded, and that was filmed all in one continuous take, but the problem with filming one continuous take when you have like a very set 42-minute runtime is that you can't cut it up, and if an episode's running long, you can't really splice it up. So they had to do a lot of close-up inserts and stuff to get it to fit within the episode. But it's a really good scene where we get to see Weir be Weir and get what she came for, which is the nukes, which the Janai want to test anyways, and this gives them a really good opportunity to do that with no risk to them.
They don't get their C4 though, so they're not happy about that.
No, it's kind of just need to let that go, I think.
Yeah.
yeah. It's
and I like how Dr. Beckett is basically just the guinea pig for the chair throughout this episode, and Zelenka and McKay are just so mean to him the whole time.
Well, yeah, because there's firefights happening outside. There's explosions. There's Wraith in the city. People. We get to see mass murder of Athosians, basically lining the hallways with the Raspberry Beret troops and Atlantean security personnel. You think that his time would be better spent, kind of doing triage and I don't know, but but yeah, no, they he gets to be funny in the chair guy, which I like.
He always looks like it's painful, doesn't he? It's
well, he doesn't want to shoot down O'Neill's helicopter again. Right. Yeah.
He's got some baggage from the last time he had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the way the technology activates it sticks you with a needle, so it detects the DNA in you.
The gene or something. Yeah.
So he's just scrunching up because he's getting poked.
Yeah.
But I did like the plan, which is to use the chair to remote control the puddle jumper carrying the nuke into the belly of the Wraith ship. But because that doesn't work, the Naquita generator is out of juice and the chair won't work. Shepard has to heroically say, goodbye, Rodney, and run through the city and then run into the puddle jumper and fly it towards the hive ship, which is where we end this episode.
Yeah.
They had so many possible, when Everett came through, he had so many possible, we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And one by one, each of those things doesn't work. And I love that. Not because I don't like Everett, but just because it seemed too simple. He came through with the solution and then they had to work the problem. So like you said earlier, Victor, this was such a busy episode. There were so many different fights and things. And the mines, when they put the mines out with the nuclear weapons, it was so funny because that one just got taken care of so quickly. I'm like, oh, yeah. And it's oh, wait, they already put it out there. It's already gone. Okay, no problem.
Yeah, we get to see on playback, basically it's not to be all Starship Troopers, but the Wraith have had the idea to just launch basically mass, what is that called?
Asteroids.
The mass. Yeah. But, mass acceleration or whatever it is, the asteroids at the nukes, which is, pretty clever, I guess. They must have seen Starship Troopers or Babylon 5. And they take out, you're right, they do. It's just like watching Missile Command or something. You just go boop, 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 and there go the nukes. And then now Atlantis is effectively blind because of the radiation from the nukes and stuff. So
oh, sorry. I was saying, yeah, this kind of humbled Everett too, and when because later on he's actually talking to Weir and saying, y'all done a good job, and he's learning. Okay, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe I'm not me coming in trying to run this show wasn't the best way to go, because now I've lost all this. I've lost the nukes. I've lost men. So maybe I don't know everything. So he's getting humbled there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't have the thousands of drones like they did in Antarctica. They only have
a couple dozen. Yeah.
Once those are used up, and that's what ends up using the power for the chair and why they can't control the puddle jumpers.
So it was a nice solution again. Oh, you can't use the drones.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't. To the drawing board.
Yep, and but we do get to see the cool rail guns or Gauss guns here, which posed another problem because the way a railgun or Gauss gun works is it uses electromagnetism to basically just like launch metal projectiles. So there's no muzzle flash, there's no recoil, there's no shell casings flying, the things that make things exciting. You basically, if you just looked at it would just be, you would see things flying out too fast for you to actually see it, and the thing doesn't, move at all. So they went back and forth with the visual effects guys until they basically, have that kind of blue flash and the blue tracer on the projectiles as they're flying through the air. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, that was a very cool prop as well, that they built, and Ford gets to be the hero. And after the race scoop up the operator of one of the rail guns, he gets to run up and man the position there.
Pearl Harbor thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And blow up the Wraith dart just before it hits the central tower, which Martin Wood, I guess, wasn't a fan of because the explosion happens too close to the people standing on the balcony and they would have, been vaporized. But it looks really cool. And in terms of visual effects, this also introduces one of the other kind of cool things I really like when they have to like jump around to different parts of the city to show where the action is happening. They'll like, pan out of where they are and then like zoom in on another part of the city. And they'll do this throughout the series, but apparently Brad Wright got the idea for that from watching Survivor at the time, which I never watched, but I guess they would like, zoom out of one camp on the island and then zoom in on the other one with their helicopter. And so they're like, let's do that. And that'll help us show like what's happening all around the city.
That's funny.
Yeah. So I like it. It just shows how big the city is and that there's people all over the place and that you're not, in the same hallway just outside the gate room.
Yeah, it gives a good sense of scale.
Yeah. And so I like it.
I do too. And we get Shepard doing his self-sacrificial suicide run with the nuke in the puddle jumper, and that's where we cut to be continued.
Yeah.
Well, and we also see Everett being facing face to face with the Wraith, and he's like shooting it in the gut, and he empties his clip, and the Wraith keeps coming, and maybe he's learning that maybe Shepard was right.
There you go.
These things are hard to
Not
kill.
Not gonna say I didn't hate that moment.
and do we have Ford in peril now, or does that happen in the next?
I thought it happened at the very end of this.
Yeah, where he gets.
It happens at the end of this because
where he falls off.
It's the same place where Everett gets attacked.
Okay. Yeah.
And Taylor's missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone on the team is in trouble.
Yeah.
Taylor's missing.
What are they going to do now?
No hope.
Shepard's flying on a suicide mission.
Yeah. I guess Weir's not technically in trouble at the moment, but she's just standing there, angsting about it all.
Yeah. She was in trouble earlier when she was like tied up to the chair.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's funny that, I assume they wouldn't want to because the Jedi, they'd already laid low and gotten away, but they didn't want to send any reinforcements or any sort of help.
Yeah.
I did read somewhere that there was a scene that they gave Sora back in exchange for the C4, but it got cut due to time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That would have been good to see.
For the Jedi, like after they negotiated.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen her since she's been living on Atlantis somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Not in the same cell the Wraith is in, apparently, unless that was...
Hopefully
not. Oops.
Maybe she's bad. Like next door and it's like teasing him, like, there's food, but you can't reach it.
Yeah.
I think we see her again, though, in a couple of season or two. Well, I think she comes back at least once.
I think so.
Cool. Did we get any fun alternate language titles for this episode, Victor?
We did. Let me find my paper here. Yeah. So this time we actually the best one was Japanese of all things.
Wow.
Yeah, we get Semarikuru Kiki Zenpen, which is the approaching crisis first part, followed by Semarikuru Kiki Koen, which is the approaching crisis part 2. So
I think the titles just sound cooler. In
they
Japanese
do,
too,
yeah.
so-
Yeah.
Fortunately, we don't always get
Yeah.
the Japanese ones, but we did this time. It was Siege or Besieged in every other language, but I like the Approaching Crisis because that could work for just about any episode.
Yeah, pretty much. Something bad will happen, and they will have to resolve it. Awesome. Did y'all have any other thoughts on this episode?
No, just that it's peak Stargate Atlantis, and yeah, even if you haven't watched the show, this is probably worth watching just for all the action and stuff.
Mhm.
Definitely, this is good TV sci-fi. And
Yeah.
when I put it on, I watched all 3 parts all in one sitting because you got to the end, and you're like, okay, I got to know what happens next. which-
Yeah,
They
that's a
They
good
all
show,
died.
Yeah,
yeah,
the season 2 is the Wraith take over Atlantis, and it's all about the Wraith now.
it's like
Stargate
Office
Wraith.
On
Space.
Atlantis.
Yeah,
Yeah, Stargate Wraith.
it's like Friends, but with
yeah.
Wraith.
Office Space. Bob's in charge.
The one where the Wraith get to
Yeah.
Earth.
There you go.
They find some fountain on Atlantis to dance around in.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Awesome. Well, before we go, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Stargate, including Peter N., Matthew A., Minerva C., Katie W., and Tom and Charlotte D. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Stargate and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and you can find the video versions at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. To find previous episodes of Secrets of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. And you can email us at stargate@sqpn.com and follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on X at SQPN. And we'll be back next time with the next episode of Atlantis, The Siege Part 3. Until then, Jeff Haecker, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Jack.
And Lisa Jones, thank you as well.
Thanks, Jack.
And Victor Lambs, thank you too.
Thanks, Jack. And yeah, well, we're building nuclear bombs here. Staying awake is sort of a prerequisite.
More stimulants.
Yeah.
And once again, I'm Jack Baruzzini. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?
Prerequisite.
Prerequisite.
Yes, I'm gonna-
Prerequisite.
Loop that in there.